Craig Conroy stuck to his guns on the first day of free agency, and we're going to talk all about it today on Locked On Flames.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, the sport stops sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. Happy Canada Day to those who celebrate. Today, we are going to be talking about the latest additions, subtractions, and Craig Conroy sticking to the plan yet again here on today's episode of Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day, and we will be daily through the month of July. So there will be plenty of Flames talk. Whether you're listening in the office or at the beach, I got you covered. And Craig Conroy has his team covered too. I am rather impressed by the signings. I mean, they're not anything like spectacular that's going to like change the trajectory of the franchise, but we know that the Flames aren't in a position to make those kind of signings right now. So, it's good. Like we're on the right path here, and I think that's kind of the biggest strength that we have going, like biggest positive we have going for us right now here in the Sea of Red. But let's dive into some of these signings. We have Anthony Mantha, who is 29 years old, 1 year, $3.5 million deal. He likes playing on his off wing, so he will be on the right side of the lineup. And Craig Conroy said that the goal was to, bring in Mantha to reignite Jonathan Huberdeau. Could have done the same thing with Anthony Duclair because we know that they have chemistry. But Duclair also signed a longer term deal and a little bit more expensive deal with the Islanders. So, low risk, high reward here. I think that it is very important to find a way to get Jonathan Huberdeau to get it together once again, because I don't want us to be having the same conversation for the third season in a row. I don't hate this. I think, another veteran player that's been around the block a few times, and he was in the trenches with the Red Wings. So, hey, that builds character. And on the other side of things, you have recent Stanley Cup champion Ryan Lomberg coming back to Calgary on a 2-year, $2 million deal. He obviously was signed by Calgary after going undrafted, played a few seasons with Calgary, and then went on his merry way to Florida and won a Stanley Cup. I guess he was talking with his wife a few months ago and said that he had a feeling he was going to end up back in Calgary. And I think that that's cool. And also, backtracking, Anthony Mantha and his wife got married at Banff. So there's like this Alberta connection with these guys. But it's very similar, I think, to the Blake Coleman acquisition, where they bring in a guy who is kind of seen as like this underdog. You have undrafted, undersized, start out in Calgary, go to the Florida Panthers, who still weren't like super good at that time, and then you just won a cup. And like, if that's not like a quintessential hockey guy story, I think then we need to find different script writers, of course. But I think Brian Lomberg brings that to the lineup. He's also pretty tough. If you go back and watch any of his games, you'll probably see him involved in just about anything. So he definitely replaces AJ Greer in the terms of that hostility, aggressiveness, grit, if you will. I think that it's great to just, again, another body and someone that's proven themselves. I think that's good too, because again, underdogs. Who doesn't love a good underdog story? And this is by far my favorite signing, and this would be goaltender Devin Cooley, who's on a 2-year, two-way deal. And it's not just Devin Cooley that's coming to the Flames. It is Tito Cooley, the bunny rabbit. And he has his own Instagram page. Super cute. Cooley posted, welcome to Calgary sort of thing. Like, I'm excited to be part of this team. And the bunny had a Flame sweater on. And if you look back at some of a lot of his interviews and whatnot in San Jose, you'll notice that he likes to talk, but this bunny is it is part of the family. So I hope Calgary fans are ready to welcome Tito and Devin to the area. But on the hockey side of things, of course, Devin Cooley is going to be your AHL goaltender. I talked to JD Young from Locked On Sharks, and he said that, this is your AHL goaltender. He has an incredible sense of athleticism, but he's still cooking. He's not ready to make that jump to a backup goaltender or to do a tit for tat, 1-for-1 sort of deal. So that's good. I mean, this does leave me questioning what the plan might be for bringing in um a true backup for Dustin Wolf. I know that there were talks of bringing in some sort of veteran goaltender here, and I mean, if this is the plan, then so be it. I wonder if they're gonna try to trade Vladar and bring someone else in. Whatever the case may be, I think it'll work out. I mean, it's nothing I don't feel like. I don't have doubt. I have faith in this. Also, real quick here, Jake Bean, defenseman, signed after he didn't receive a qualifying offer from Columbus. He has a deep history in Calgary, played juniors here. And of course, his dad is the former CEO of CSES, Calgary Sports Entertainment. So, that's nepotism. But we root for nepotism around here sometimes. Unfortunately, Tisha Ginla did not get that, but Jake Bean did. So, these are solid additions, and we're going to talk more about it in a little bit here. But you need players on your roster. You need to ice a team. You're not looking to win a Stanley Cup. And Craig Conroy stuck to his guns. And we will be back to talk about that in just a moment. But before we do that, let's take a quick break here and talk about an app that has you covered all summer long, and that would be FanDuel. I love sports, and you love sports so much that we never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sporting like we want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going wherever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I am in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost on a daily basis. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to fanduel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're getting your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. I do have some bad news. Craig Conroy basically said the door is shut, or it's closing, almost closed, with Oliver Kylington, and that stinks. It sounds like it came down to term, and the Flames just weren't comfortable with it. And I don't blame them for a number of reasons. It's not just because of, the last 2 seasons Kylington has had. They're not in a place to be throwing 6 or 7 year contracts at anyone. I think, obviously, we're going to talk about the Yegor Sharagovich contract extension here in a little bit, but they're not throwing all of their eggs in a few baskets anymore. It's a different plan for the time being. And this stinks because obviously you're rooting for Oliver Kylington in every aspect of his career. And for the two parties to not be able to come to agreement on the one UFA that was so dedicated and adamant about wanting to stay. I wonder if they do come around on it, and if it's kind of like the Bertuzzi situation last year, where no one was giving him that 5-year contract he wanted, and then he just took a year with the Leafs, and then just obviously signed another extension. But is he going to have to come back down to earth and accept a 2 or 3 year deal with a team? It stinks. He is a great person, a solid hockey player. You love having him on the penalty kill. He's a great puck moving defenseman, and he is a big part of your team. I think that it's not as if the Flames just slammed the door on him and said, no, we're not, take it or leave it sort of deal. There was room for negotiations. The two parties wanted to get things done, and it just sounds like there's really no room to meet in the middle right now. But I will say, them not going out and signing, multiple defensemen kind of leaves me to believe that the door isn't fully shut. And I mean, that's fine. I think that Calgary and Kylington kind of just go together like peanut butter and jelly, and I hope that things kind of turn around and Kylington's able to sign with Calgary for whatever the contract might be. On top of departures, we have Dennis Gilbert going back home to Buffalo. Jordan Osterley signed in Boston. Ben Jones and AJ Greer. I know AJ signed in Florida, so congratulations. Best of luck to all of those guys. And the other, Tyler Toffoli, obviously traded last summer from Calgary to Jersey, and he signed a 4-year deal in San Jose. Sean Monahan signed a new contract today with the Columbus Blue Jackets. So I hope they get their purple Gatorade ready, and we get the Sean Monahan and Johnny Gaudreau show for 5 years, and I think that's great. One thing, when I saw that Sean Monahan got 5 years, I was very grateful the Flames stayed away from that. And this is probably something we'll talk about more, but 5 years is a long time, especially for a player that is as old, has many miles on it, like Sean Monahan. Sean Monahan is 30-something years old. He has a long history of injuries. He has been able to stay healthy these last few seasons and avoid significant injury, but I don't think it was worth the risk for the Flames. And same thing with Jake DeBrusk. Jake DeBrusk signed a 7-year deal, $5.5 million. I have no issue with the cap hit. I think like 5.5, solid. But I do have an issue with the 7-year term. And I think that it is safer for the Flames to avoid those long-term contracts, which they have discussed that they're not handing those out like candy. So it does feel like like there has been progress made when it comes to that. And it's another stepping stone through the rebuilding and this transitional phase. I think we all understand that the goal wasn't to go out and make a splash. They weren't going to sign Steven Stamkos. They weren't going to sign Brady Shea. There was no way they were signing Vlad Tarasenko. And I'm sure they're not in the mix for Jacob Trouba, the Jacob Trouba trade. So I am very okay with what happened today and how they are approaching free agency and just kind of this plan with the contracts. It's right now the Flames are in this window of rebuilding and retooling, adjusting, whatever you want to call it. And you need to have fluidity. Fluidity throughout your roster. You cannot have lots of money tied up in long-term contracts. If you have, like, you could flip Anthony Mantha at the deadline if you wanted to. If the Flames are not going to be competing in a wild card spot at that point, more than likely. So, if a team calls, you do that. And it sounds like they're waiting on the season to progress before they do anything with Kuzmenko, which I think is a fine deal. And we're going to talk about Sharagovich coming up here next, but they're on track to what what they need to be. And I think that is super important, and we will continue to talk about that next here on Locked On Flames. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto. If you're watching on YouTube, you might see these beautiful Lego sunflowers I built last night. And the Lego boy, Yegor Sharagovich, got signed to an extension today. And we're going to dive more into that tomorrow because that's not something that can be tackled in a 10-minute segment here on the show. But 5 years, $5.5 million, not bad. I know this was a player that people wanted to see flipped this year, and it felt like that's the direction things were going. But I mean, if you can consistently get him to score those 20 plus goals a year, I think you're gonna have great value in him. And when he is shooting and the pucks are going his way, you have a really good player. And we're not talking about making a first round playoff appearance or anything like that. It is literally just to keep your head above water and hopefully get a top 10 draft pick. I don't know if I have not seen a breakdown of the contract, and this is where I wish, cap friendly was still going to be a thing. I didn't see anything regarding no movement or no trade clauses. I certainly hope that Craig Conroy is a little more conservative when it comes to handing out no trade and no movement clauses like they're candy on Halloween, because that's how you find yourself in trouble. And we don't need any of that. Any more of that, I should say. But all around, I think that it was a really good first day of free agency for the Flames. You didn't go overboard with spending, with term, uh, going after, a play like a true needle mover like a Brady Shea or a uh, Brett Brett Pesci. No, Martin Necas. Same team. But there's still room for improvement. We know this. Rome was not built in a day. And unfortunately, you can't just construct a roster in real life the same way you can do it on NHL 24. Because believe me, I'm working on that. My first move was to trade Chris Tanev. I tried to simulate it as close to what happened this year as possible, and still a work in progress. But this is the direction you want to be on. This is the path you want to be headed down. Yes, it is going to stink. If you're not going to be playing competitive hockey, but like you're going to be getting there again. And I hate using Chicago as an example, because I think that they got lucky with the first overall draft pick, and that's a real difference maker, especially with a player like Connor Bedard. But they had that constant roster turnover. They had their captain not retire, but he just didn't retire, but he's no longer playing for the team due to medical reasons. But there was fluidity in that roster. You had young guys coming and going, and you had a rotating roster throughout the season. And I think last year they were able to sign Nick Foligno, or trade for Nick Foligno and Taylor Hall. Two great additions. And this offseason, they were able to add, oh my gosh, Bertuzzi. And there was another player that they signed today where I was like, oh, well, okay. That might be like their roster is looking a little better. And there's going to be a point in 2 or 3 years down the line where the Flames kind of have that aha moment where, oh, this might be the year we like actually break into the playoffs again. Oh, this is the year we're like kind of a legitimate team. And that's not saying they can't be that now, but like pretty much everyone in their division got better today, or through the draft. So it's not, I don't think we saw any teams take a real big step back. So it's really up in the air for Calgary, and you want to be shooting for that top 10 draft pick, because you clearly saw this year the difference in availability. And this year might not be the best example, because it was a good draft, and anyone, like, players fell. So but there's very much a difference between picking 28th versus 10 or 7. So right now the Flames just need to do this. Maybe they trade Kuzmenko. I think that is the best option. They need to lock up Dustin Wolf. He's an RFA. Pelletier. Like, they still have RFAs that they need to sign as well. And they're going to have a team. The goal was to get younger. And they're getting younger, whether they like it or not. And I think they're headed in the right direction. Like, it's not going to be an easy trot, an easy jaunt. down the rebuilding, retooling lane, but you have to get there one way or another. And we did learn that the Flames open the season at home on Saturday, October 12th, against the Philadelphia Flyers. I will be in attendance, and I'm so excited to finally get to Calgary and experience the Saddle Dome and what might be ahead for me and the Flames this season, because it's you never know. And so thank you everyone for sticking around through another free agency frenzy coverage this year, kicking it off. And I'll be back tomorrow to talk about any signings that happen between now and then. And of course, we're going to be breaking down Yegor Sharagovich's 5-year deal. Was this a good thing? Was it a bad thing? And was this the best option for the Calgary Flames and their future endeavors? But make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And I will see you all tomorrow.